be chilling tonight. Hey. I need to feel tonight, man. Hey, man, where my radio, man? Yeah, let's go. I need you to turn that up. Damn it, tonight. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
Pull the way up like we in a club. Fly flashy, grown classy, so turn it up. Saturday mornings, no walk of shame, we fresh up. 950 lounge, that's my guilty pleasure. I don't miss my favorite show, I put everything on hold. Work the baby, even the babysitter know. When 950 come on, don't bother. I'm locked in 10 to 1, no problem. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
Have a young lady guest here. Before I announce something, we got a caller on the line. Caller, who are you? Where you calling from?
Hello.
Hello? You still there, Mashar?
Hello.
Hello?
I hear some wink wink.
All right, well let's keep it going, lady. Back to the young lady.
Yes.
Oh wait.
Oh, we got
Hello?
somebody. Is that Mr. Glenn Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn Jones, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 950 Lounge, man. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
We had so much turbulence here. Stetsasonic here, Dion Richmond from The Cosby Show. And it's been a little crazy, but thank you for taking a few minutes to call us into the show, man. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Again, born in Jacksonville, Florida. Starting your music career in the South. Talk about just how you got your sound from as a young person, starting at a young age. I believe you started singing back as a teenager. Talk about that growth with your music coming from Florida. And he hung up. Oh, okay. You there, Glenn? Sorry, guys.
At that time, there was so much great music, around. My music journey actually started in the church. Started singing in church as a kid, and ended up singing with a group from Jacksonville who eventually started to open and tour with, a lot of the major gospel groups, so early on, I was around people like, Shirley Caesar and the Mighty Clouds and James Cleveland and all these people.
Wow.
And as I got older, I began to try my hand in writing. I started writing when I was about 14 years old. And then I formed a group called The Modulations. And soon after that, I went to California, and Reverend James Cleveland invited us to his home. And we got around the piano and started singing. And the next thing I know, he had called the record label at the time was Savoy Records. That was the label he was on.
Savoy Records.
And he called me.
That's the old gospel label.
Yeah. And he called them and told them to send him a contract because he was getting ready to sign this kid named Glenn Jones. And, that's how it started.
No doubt. We're talking to the legendary Glenn Jones. So when did the move from gospel, as my mama would say, more worldly music, when did that change come about? Because obviously Savoy is historic gospel label. Even one of the guys used to go to our church, Samuel Bell, was part of Savoy Records. So when did that change come about? When did that metamorphosis happen?
Well, I did 2 albums for Savoy, and after I did the second album, Norman Connors, he heard, my work. And actually, while I was developing as a songwriter, I wasn't writing traditional gospel. I was writing more contemporary gospel, more with the R&B feel. And I always wanted to, hear my records. I wanted to work on that level, production-wise, from what I was hearing on the radio. I'm like, I want my record to sound like that.
Yeah.
So when I became aware that Norman was interested in me, I flew up to D.C. and we had a meeting at my manager's house. And then the next thing I know, I was on a flight to Cali, to L.A. He was working on a project called Take It to the Limit, and he had this song that he needed a male vocalist to be featured on called Melancholy Fire, and I did it. You know, I just did it.
No doubt. Now going in '91, as we springboard a little bit, you had a hit, a big hit, Here I Go Again, one of my favorites, and it went number one on the Billboard charts. So when you're number one on the Billboard charts at a time when this is the early '90s, when like music is starting to conform a little bit to rap and different things, but you know you're an R&B singer. How does that flow happen? How is that where, you know, I'm gonna sing the music I love and what I'm good at, and not conform to like singing hooks and doing other things on rap albums?
Well, you know, I had nothing against, you know, being featured on a rap record. I would have, did a verse or two on a rap record, but I stayed with what I was doing because that's who I was. That's who I am. I was just being me, you know. I did have the occasion to do a record featuring Jay-Z back in '94. I did a record called Good Thing. Mm-hmm. And actually that was a single that Clark Kent did the remix on, and he featured Jay-Z on the record.
Yeah, that was the B-side.
No doubt. You guys have any Sapphire?
I'm just interested to know what's your thought with the music industry now. Just seeing the changes from, you know, when you've given an opportunity going in, you know, the gospel and then changing lanes to more contemporary style music, which you was doing contemporary gospel, but kind of getting out of that lane to what do you think about the music industry now, especially with all the technology and the ways that people are putting out music compared to all the contracts that were being signed back then?
I think the business is very interesting. You know, the whole landscape has changed, you know, as far as radio and retail and all of that, and everything has become independent. I enjoyed working back in the day because you had a team of people, you know, that were working on a record. You know, like back in the day, it wasn't one person trying to wear all of the hats. You know, like when you went in to do a record, you had a songwriter, you had an arranger, you had a producer, you know, and it just, it was a very unique and special kind of thing, you know, but all of that's changed now. But, you know, a lot of the new music I do, I love it, you know, because a lot of the new music is the old music, you know. I mean, you know, it's without old school, you know, there wouldn't be any new school. So I have, you know, certain artists that I like, you know, and I still listen to it. But my thing is, it confuses me to see, you know, like with the award shows and stuff, you know, like the Grammys, how somebody like Jay-Z or some hip hop person can be placed in a R&B category. I don't get that.
Right.
Glenn, what do you think about?
Glenn, I know we press against the clock, man. I appreciate you taking a few moments. Promise me the next time you're in New York, you come here in the studio and rap with us a little bit.
I would definitely do that, man.
I appreciate you, man. Real quick before we get you out of here, give information where people can reach out to you, find your music. You got some great classics, man. It is Saturday, so somebody gonna do it. Something gonna be conceived tonight with your music. But give the information people can reach out to you.
Well, I mean, you can always go on iTunes, you know, Amazon.com if you want to, you know, purchase or download some music. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you know, you can hit me up at Real Glenn Jones, Instagram at Real Glenn Jones, and I'm also on Facebook. So I got a new project coming out soon, next year. Amazing record. Look to check it out.
Will do. Glenn Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, brother, for calling in, man. We appreciate you. Keep doing your thing.
Thanks for calling in.
Take a quick break. She's been waiting very patiently. Chrystal Stone's next. Nafi Lounge on a Saturday. Come on back.
DSN, The Matrix Studios Network.
Peace. This is the chairman, JT Thompson, Hip Hop Hall of Fame, and we rocking with the brothers at 950 Lounge at the Matrix Studios.
That was quick, and we're back. And sometimes it goes that way. Like I mentioned earlier, this young lady here, if you're a big fan of First Take, if you're a big fan of her podcast, she's on social media. She's also a huge Longhorn and Cowboy fan. We won't let her get to here in New York. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chrystal Stone to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't know what to say. I was going to say something, but let me just get the name out.
That's safe. That's a safe bet for you.
Now, you won a contest to do First Take, and you was on the show back in January, I believe. Talk about that experience a little bit.
Well, First Take decided to have this contest to allow viewers to participate on the show, and you had to submit videos over the course of 6 weeks. To respond to different topics on the show, to win a chance to go on the show to debate with them, and I was the female winner, and I beat out over like 15,000 videos.
Wow.
So, and then I got to go on the show and debate with Stephen A, Max, and Molly.
Held your own pretty well.
Thank you.
I'm a fan of First Take. I mean, I watched the other show now, but I'm a fan of First Take. but you held your own there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. It was nerve-wracking. I was on for 2 segments. The first segment was a little like, "Ooh, what's going on?" And then the second segment, it was
let loose.
Yeah, let loose. Yeah.
Now, again, you're no stranger to sports. You're a sports fan. You know, UT, Texas, and Dallas, and I know obviously.
Yes, she carries it well. She got the star. I thought it was wonderful.
Man, that's just burning my insides right now, boy.
Okay.
I'm staying on this side. I'm gonna look this way. I ain't even looking over there. I'm just upset.
But obviously, what has taken the sports world by storm, not just football, the sports world, just political world, is the Colin Kaepernick situation. I know when we reached out, I wanted to have you come on here and discuss that. Being an African-American female who's a sports fan. Your thoughts on the Kaepernick thing and how it's affected how a lot of African-Americans look at football?
You know, it's unfortunate the way that this whole situation has played out, because it was really quiet at the beginning of last year. Kaepernick started protesting during the preseason. No one knew about it. He was sitting out in the national anthem the first 2 games of the preseason. No one talked about it. It wasn't until the 3rd preseason game that the media picked up on it and it turned into this big thing. What's unfortunate is that the message, as we all know, I think we've all paid attention to the media and what's going on. The narrative is being rewritten. The message that he was trying to get across is being lost, and it's being hijacked now by President Trump and his agenda against black athletes and his own agenda against the NFL.
Right.
But I think that Kaepernick, obviously he started a movement, but it's nothing new. I mean, this isn't the first time that black athletes have protested against the national anthem.
Craig
it's the first time. Tommy and John Carlos in the 70s. Tommy Smith and John Carlos in the 70s. So it's not new, but it's sort of new to this generation, and it's
because of social media.
And social media just took off. Right. There was a young lady, actually, Tony Smith, in 2003 at Manhattanville College. She turned her back to the flag during the national anthem. No one knew about that. It didn't get any press because, it was
a small school.
Social media. It's a small school. It wasn't a big deal. But this concept of athletes of color sort of looking at the flag and what it's supposed to represent, but the symbols just aren't being exemplified in our everyday lives.
I heard about the NBA commissioner saying that, the NBA players won't, they will all stand for the flag.
Well, they have something that
90% of the NBA is black.
But they have something that if you don't stand after the Mahmoud thing, it's actually written in their doctrine.
They actually have a rule. The difference between the NBA.
Let LeBron. Now, you know what I'm saying? It just takes one person.
Well, but the problem is the difference is that they actually have a rule that you should stand that's been in place for several years. The NFL does not have that rule. So they actually have the choice, which is crazy that you actually give them the choice to do what they want to do, but these NFL owners seem to be punishing a lot of the players for doing it.
But remember, the NFL, they never even came out for the national anthem. Remember, they used to stay in the back
before 2009.
Before 2009,
Because
so that's why there was never really
they got that money
with
contract.
Right, armed forces, they pay them.
Exactly. So once they got that contract, okay, now everybody's got to come out for the national anthem. But before that,
show and everything.
Yeah, but before that, there wasn't. The teams was never on the field for the national
anthem. And how funny is it that people keep saying keep politics out of sports when it's the NFL that brought politics into sports, and now it's sort of in your face with these players and these African American players. You come out into the field and you got to stand there and listen to the lyrics of this song and look at the flag and think about what's happening on the streets in their communities, and they're supposed to just be
transparent.
So
it's supposed to be, well, as somebody said, you're at work, and if that's your job, you're supposed to do your job and leave your politics for outside your job. But when you need to make a stand, you have to sometimes bring the politics
never a good time
to the workplace.
To voice
sometimes
your opinions.
It's never a good time to protest. It's never convenient. It's never comfortable.
That's why it's supposed to be uncomfortable. That's why it's supposed to be so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, but like I said, first of all, my whole thing is I don't find it disrespectful to kneel anyway. If you know the history of kneeling before the flag was being done numerous times throughout history without it being anything disrespectful. I think it's the fact that it was an African American man that did it. It drew the attention, and people didn't like that. At the end of the day, yes, we pay these athletes, but to what respect? Because a lot of people, unfortunately, look at them as mules. They work for this check, for this money, and therefore, since we're paying you all this money, you're going to do what we want you to do, and that's just the bottom line. Right now, we're at an age where people are starting to just be vocal now with their opinions and how they feel on the inside. I don't think he did anything respectful, and it really has nothing to do with what's going on with the military, fighting, kneeling did not have to do anything with the military. And I work around a lot of people that's in the military, Air Force, Marines, all types of stuff. And they say, yes, that really has nothing to do with us. The kneeling, I think he takes a concept and however he feels about it, his personal opinion, he makes it this big thing. And like you said, the message is lost. He was kneeling for something totally different, not because he feels like I don't love this country and I don't love this flag. He was protesting something different, and no one is touching that issue.
That's the problem. The problem is that it's become discombobulated, and people are using their own. And the funny and the sorrow in the whole thing is people who are on media that don't even have a clue. Now your job, you're a podcast person, professional. Your job is to learn the facts. And if you don't know the facts and you're going on media and saying different things that are not true, it really is the disrespectful
Listen,
part.
my podcast, The Stone Truth, which I started right after I won the contest, they suggested, ESPN suggested to continue on to start my own podcast to talk about sports. I was one of the first people to say back in March when he went into free agency, after a couple of weeks of being on the market, he was not signed, he was being blackballed before a lot of people admitted to it, right? Right. And I think what's also unfortunate is that, the message is getting lost. And then I think the problem is Kaepernick was very clear why he did the protest. Mind you, Kaepernick also announced that he was no longer going to kneel during the national anthem. Right. But no one wants to listen to black voices, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter that he actually consulted with Nate Boyer, who was a Green Beret, and said, it's actually more respectful to kneel. This has nothing to do with the military. How many times do you have to say that, right? It doesn't matter. No one wants to listen to black voices. So regardless of what he does, he's still going to be punished for it.
And in the military, they do kneel when somebody's hurt.
And if members of the military are saying this is not disrespectful to us,
because they kneel when somebody's hurt,
but people on their couches still have a problem.
It's the narrative. The narrative is lost. People only hear what they want to hear. And people, as I always say, the Band-Aid has been ripped off. The wound is wide open and it's flowing, and you're seeing everything right now come to fruition.
And it's infected.
And it's infected and it's nasty. Yeah. And the only way we can put the Band-Aid back on and seal it back up is that everybody comes together. And that's the problem.
I don't think you can
Nobody was supposed to be, if you look at the Pledge of Allegiance, it says what? One nation, under God, indivisible. Right now, we're so divided that it's disgusting.
The issue is that the flag, that wasn't written for your hue.
Yeah, I know it wasn't meant for my hue. Guess what? My hue is still going to represent that because that's what I still live under.
Exactly.
So I take pride in that, and I take obligation that if I'm an American citizen, regardless of what my hue is, I still have to stand up and be an American citizen.
We're talking to Chrystal Stone again, winner of the
Let's
First
talk
Take
some
contest. Let's move on.
How the Knicks gonna do?
It's all about politics. Let's get back into sports.
Now, what about now? Obviously, I have to mention the Cam Newton situation because you are female and a reporter.
Here we go.
Thank you. Let's
Here
talk.
we
So,
go.
That's
and
what
you
I
got
want to
some
talk
pretty
about.
good guns on you. So
Let's
I don't
talk.
know. You know, I don't know.
I work out a little bit. I dabble.
I see. I ain't gonna mess with you. You can smack him in the head.
She used on Wonder Woman bracelet. She said, "Let me get them straight now."
Do you know Mean Gene? But Cam Newton made a comment about to a reporter in Charlotte about it was funny how she can talk about routes and different things, insinuating that she had no clue what she was doing and maybe she had no business being here. The sad part about it is
it was a joke.
But the sad part, this was a beat reporter. This wasn't a national reporter, somebody he didn't know. So this is a woman he sees pretty much every day. So your thoughts on Cam Newton? He's like, you hyped. I see the steam coming from your head.
Because over the last 48 hours, I have been active, very active on my social media, sort of going back and forth with men, trying to get them to understand why this was such a big deal. All the backlash has been, well, this wasn't a big deal. He was just joking, yada, yada, yada. No, it is, and it's not just Cam. I don't want to beat on Cam. I want to beat on the message that what he said puts out. Right. There are little boys sitting at home, little girls too, who are trying to sort of be on this equal playing field. But if you sit there and tell them, oh, you know, it's funny that a female is talking about football, how does that get me into my foot in the door? And it resonated with me so much because I have experienced that. I've been at the sports bars arguing with sports. Listen, I read just as many articles. I watch ESPN every day. I watch all the football games. But because I'm a female, my voice is sort of devalued and lessened because I didn't play football. Well, guess what? I probably played just as many routes or football plays as you did, right? So it's unfortunate because we had an opportunity, and which is what I focused on my social media page. We have an opportunity to actually talk about what is a teachable moment here, right? To talk about equality in the workplace. There are certain things you cannot say regardless of how you feel, right? But it got, again, hijacked by the fact that the reporter supposedly put out, or she didn't supposedly, she actually
did.
put out 5 years ago, put out these very offensive racist tweets, and then it became, well, wait a minute, he was responding because she's a racist, and then the whole, we lost it.
Couldn't that have been the case that maybe, being that she's a beat reporter, and this is almost like people working in your workplace, you know their personalities and how they are. Could it have just been that maybe Cam was being sarcastic because he knows her true thoughts?
Here's my problem with that. You don't combat one ism with another ism.
Right.
You understand? Just because you think you know that she may have some racist attitudes about her, you don't then attack her for being a female.
Yeah, he just couldn't
what are you fixing?
I mean,
how about and you know what? If he knew that, you know a way to put that,
Next question.
Does next question, or there's just another way that you can address that.
Right.
The issue that you actually have, instead of making yourself look like a sexist.
I guess we now know why NFL players can stand up on a podium for 15 minutes and say absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
AKA Russell Wilson.
Marshawn Lynch.
AKA
Russell Westbrook.
Bill Belichick.
Russell Westbrook also.
Right.
Yeah.
Next. But
He did lose an endorsement behind that.
Dan
he lost Dan.
I think that Dannon jumped the gun a little bit too soon.
100%.
And I also think it took
story.
Cam a little too long to put out his apology because if his apology I thought was very sincere. I really appreciated it, and I think had Dannon heard that prior to cutting him, they would have probably reconsidered.
You got to understand one thing, and you would know this being from Texas. It is certain parts of this country, and Charlotte is one of them, heavy Bible Belt, heavy conservative. If you are the face of a football team, you are not just a football player, you are the face of that franchise, you are the face of that community. If you're a black man in a conservative area, aka Charlie Strong at Austin and what have you, there is a lot of things you're gonna deal with. I know Kevin Sumlin, when he lost that game against UCLA, there are people. One of the
alumni.
It wasn't alumni. One of the people part of Board of Regents actually came on Facebook and said he should be fired. So these things happen when you're an African American in certain markets more than others because it's just they face what the community is. And Cam's got to understand that coming from Auburn, living in Atlanta, growing up, he's got to know that.
But here's my problem, and my boy put this up on Instagram. He said one quarterback sent a picture of his penis to a woman in a locker room. Another quarterback was accused of harassing a massage therapist. These are two prominent quarterbacks.
But what are those two prominent quarterbacks?
And that's the problem.
But we
that's
get that.
right. But
we know that in business.
But
and
I
life.
understand that though. But yet we got white and black women coming at Cam. Yet when these two men did it, ain't nobody said nothing.
It wasn't
they just let it go.
It wasn't highlighted as much.
I think that, you know what? I think
Brett Favre and Peyton Manning.
I think
they're both highlighted
guys,
quarterbacks.
let's be very clear on where the distinction lies. This happened. We're bringing up things that happened in the past, right? And then we're having to sort of put it in front of the judge and judge it. Cam Newton did this live on camera, you know what I mean? And we were able to address it right then and there. So when people try to compare it to Trump's situation, when he said grabbing the you know what, we had to dig that video out and sort of deal with it within the confines of the election campaign. Cam did it right on camera. We were able to deal with it. He apologized. I think he handled it well. And the teachable moment was there.
Yeah.
This now, how do we go back and prosecute?
It's like, we sit there and we prosecute this young man, but at that time when these things happen to other people of a different hue,
that's definitely there.
It's like, he was just being funny. Oh, it's okay. But if a black man speaks out of place, or if a black man kneels and they find it wrong, it's a whole serious discussion. Let alone if somebody else does it of a different hue,
I agree
it's
with
okay.
you on that, but it doesn't excuse Cam at all.
No.
Right.
By no means am I excusing Cam, but I'm also saying, listen, if we're gonna judge everybody, let's judge everybody as a human, not as a black person, a white person, a male, a female.
It's just a lot of layers.
Away, take the color away, take the gender away. Judge him as a human being. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you effed up, you effed up. It is what it is.
At the end of the day, like you said, it is what it is. In reality is, it's not going to happen. We're still going to get judged. We're still going to be looked differently, especially females. Females have a harder time because not only are we dealing with the man's world, but then we're also the color of our skin. So we have two things that we have to face compared to with the black man.
I think it's important to understand the layers and all of this too. What you said is right. Like that's a layer that we got to deal with. What is also a layer? You can't go around calling women females and saying, "Oh, it's great that you know about football." That's another layer, regardless of color.
That's cute though. It is nice when you see a female who knows routes. I go a lot.
But you don't need to say it.
Why not?
And you know what? You know what? We can say that now because we're chilling, right? You at a workplace.
Yeah.
You at a professional workplace. Right. Imagine my boss coming up to me saying, "Oh, it's so cute. You know numbers." Like that's just. Wow, a woman is good with numbers.
You have to know.
You
have to know your time and place.
Right.
At the end of the day, you know that we're crucified more by what we do, regardless of how much money they want to pay us. It's never going to be equal. Listen, don't mess up your check. That's how I feel. Don't mess up your money. Get your money, do what you got to do, get out. Thank you for this. And unfortunately, you got to say thank you for this, massa, because that's just what it is. Bottom line.
Well, I ain't gonna go that far.
I ain't going there.
I'm gonna tell you why, because I like to be a little the oddball. Because at the end of the day, that's who's employing you. Okay?
If you
at the end of the day, that's who is employing you. Get your money and get out and stop messing up your money.
Well, that's the key. If we took it to the street sense, there's people who lived a certain lifestyle that took their dirty money and put it into quality business. If the NFL or the athlete had that agenda, then you be the Junior Bridgman. You be, the Dave Bing that took their money, wasn't making as much these guys are making, and turned that into a franchise. But Chrystal, this has been great. I appreciate you.
We had a full house today, as you see.
Yeah.
We barely had a seat for you.
Definitely want to bring you back in. Maybe you can co-host with us one day.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love that.
Real quick, can people know about your podcast and when they can reach out to you?
So you can listen to my podcast, which is The Stone Truth, on iTunes, Google Play, and at crystalstone.com/The Stone Truth. And that's Chrystal with an H. You can see some of my videos that I do on sports on my YouTube channel under Chrystal Stone, and my Instagram and Twitter is Chrystal Stone _ with an H.
We'll link it to our audience as well. We'll put it on our website so people have an easier path to that.
Yo, can I get it in the morning? Every Saturday I be up, know your name. 950 Lounge on Square.